Welcome back to day 63 of our chess journey to 1500 ELO on chess.com. Now for the last few days we've had a lot of new faces in the comment section and it's been really nice and fun interacting with you guys. Well, in today's game my computer crashed at about move 7, so we don't have the start of the recording. So instead I'll be going through the analysis board here and showing you the games that led up to the point from which the recording resumes. We played 1d4 and we met this, and we got into a Slav defense. In this position we played our knight up, and our opponent played this quite particular interesting line here. I didn't quite know the response here and said we would look at this after the game. We went up here, our opponent played a6, we played h3, they took, and we got into this position. And this is the point at which the recording resumes. Okay, so I just crashed, or my computer just crashed rather, so we'll resume the game from here. We are playing what was originally a Slav defense, but it's apparently transposed into what's called a queen's pawn opening Suckertort variation. Let's have a look here. We might want to castle here. Our opponent prepares this. We might have this capture at some point. Let's have a look at this. Actually, if we take, they take. Then the C file is open. Alternatively, we might come up here with our bishop. We do have to play carefully here as we don't have a lot of time. So in the interest of saving time, we'll play bishop up to... Well, I don't think this diagonal is doing a lot now because of this pawn move, so maybe we'll come up here and play solidly. The bishop comes onto this diagonal. And now I'm actually interested. Do we have this move? I think this might kill off this bishop, but ours would be incredibly weak as well. First of all, let's just castle. I'm expecting our opponent to castle as well, and then we'll take it from here. We might develop our bishop to d2. Do we have any ways here of applying pressure? I don't quite like our queen here on f3, but it might become an asset at some point. Let's have a look here. I don't quite like that, to be honest. It might be good. It might be quite okay, but I'm not completely convinced. Do we have b4? I think I like b4, or b3 might be good as well. Maybe preparing this diagonal for ourselves while keeping this bishop bed. Let's play this. This might still be a move. Here we might even have a4 though. If they take, then we can take, and we can play like this. And because this pawn here is killing this bishop, but they could just come back around here and improve their own bishop, but that's going to waste some time. I think I'd like to play behind our pawns. So a4 might be an idea, trying to kill off this move while giving ourselves a better bishop. at an opportune moment rather, we might have this trade here at d5, opening up the c file and trying to get our rooks onto the c file. I don't expect c5 to be very good, although it might be. We'll have to see. Now this knight can get into the game. This seems... well, it might be good. Can our opponent come in here and hit our knight? Maybe. But they go for this. Playing solidly. I'm trying to evaluate different moves here. I think this is still a good move. This might be a good move as well. It's going to open up some scope for our bishop. Just don't quite like our position if the knight takes necessarily. I think we'll go here first to improve the bishop, and then we can look at this idea afterwards. Our knight is still looking a bit weak here. What do we do if the queen comes in? We could play this, but that's a rather anti-positional move, I think. They strike in the center. Now let's try to calculate this. Are we able to take here now? I should have seen this idea coming, to be honest. They want to open up this bishop, so they want to hit at our d4 pawn. I guess I'm just a bit distracted after the computer crashed. CXD makes sense to me here. If they take... then I guess we take like this, and we might play with a double IQP perhaps. Which is not ideal, but I've seen worse. Alternatively, this might be a move, and then we might try to replace our pawn with a bishop. That seems like an idea. I think I like this. Or do I? If we go here and they come like this, then we might be able to take here. If they take, we get this. It's a bit difficult to evaluate, to be honest, but I think this looks okay. I don't quite like the captures, although they might be good too. Now we are down more than 8 minutes. So we'll have to play a bit quickly from now on. They might even develop this knight while hitting our bishop. That's not quite ideal. The pawn is pushed. Okay. So now our queen is looking quite semi-trapped, I'd say even. We can't get back behind our position at least. So where should we go? I think I'd like to argue for occupying this diagonal here. This does invite... no, it doesn't invite this necessarily. I think this might be our best square, trying to play defensively with the queen while still maintaining some offensive options. Now this becomes more interesting, to try to strike at their pawn integrity, because this pawn has to be dealt with at some point, as it's a thorn in our side. This is what I'm expecting to happen. Which responses do we have? Well, now we don't have to defend this pawn from their pawn, so if they come up, we might drop our bishop back while maintaining our diagonal. This seems interesting. I think I'd like to take here first. Maybe, just maybe, moving the rooks might be better. But I don't quite have time to calculate that deeply, I think. I don't see how this could lose the game, at least. It should keep it somewhat even. If this is played, then we have a target on d5. If this is played, and this pawn here becomes quite weak, they might play for f5. The pawn captures. But are we able to apply pressure to this? Let's have a look here. There are some ideas here. This looks annoying now because we get forced out. But yeah, we just have to play quickly. Let's come down here to the C file. They develop the knight. I don't expect this to be good, so we'll drop back. A3 seems better to get behind our pawns, play a bit safely, and then we still maintain the option of pushing our b pawn. This knight does not have a lot of squares. We can't go here. We might look at some kind of maneuver like this, for example. Would like to double the rooks here. I am identifying b3 as a weakness, which could be targeted immediately. Then we might have to play rook a to b1. I'm currently a bit unsure as to whether our queen is in a good or a bad spot. We can't quite get it to coordinate with our other pieces fully here, but it's still in a semi-active position. But I don't quite know how much potential mobility we have with it. If this knight moves, we could have ideas of coming up here with our bishop. Or so I'd like to say. But I'm not honestly convinced. Our opponent trades bishops. I think we have to take, because we don't want a rook here. Then it's going to be difficult to come around, and pushing the b pawn further might become bad for us. If the queen takes, our opponent might threaten this. I'm not fond of our position at all here. Can we intercept this infiltration idea? We might come back with our knight here to the square I was mentioning to try to reposition it while covering this. I am looking at different squares here for our queen and potentially our rook as well. I'm not seeing anything overwhelmingly good. Not immediately at least, but we'll have to see. But now I'm realizing this has become a move. That looks annoying, to say the least. But do we have to respond to it? If they come down here, we can't defend this pawn with a knight move. The only way to not lose anything might be this move, which is too passive, I think. So here, could we intentionally second pawn? No, we get this instead, and I think this favors us. This forces this, and then we get the C file for free. At least that's what I'm seeing. As I've mentioned a few times now, we don't quite have enough time to calculate this deeply now. So let's go for the simplification and then take it from there. I'm looking at this move now. Yeah, they go for it. Are we forced to trade? I think so. But after this, no, we don't have this check. Yeah, this is looking less than ideal, but we might be forced to trade because if they come in with a rook, then that's definitely not good. Now this might be played, and they could try to target us like this. We'll just have to come up with a defensive idea. The queen takes. Now this is a weak square. What I'm looking at here is playing this simply to disallow a queen infiltration by covering all our squares. We do still have some weaknesses, but we can't allow queen to c2. That's too powerful, as we don't have our own queen around. I would have liked being able to play this, but this pawn is locking us in place. If this knight moves, we might have this. I'm not quite sure as to how good it would be. We will have to evaluate that as we go. We might have this idea at some point if this moves. This knight does not have a lot of moves. F3 might be a move, trying to get our queen back and hitting at this pawn. The king comes up, which might prepare to move this knight over here, for example. I'm not quite sure. I think we'll have to play this. The annoying thing is our opponent might get a knight outpost here, but we get our queen into a better position, and our opponent is not locking our squares. We might be able to play on d3 now. If we come back with our queen, we might contest this file, and then we'll take it from there. I'm glad I'm glad rather the game didn't abort while I was disconnected. Oh. That's a good move. That's a really nice move. I think we might have to strike first, and if they take, then we take ourselves. And they take, then we come in here perhaps. I'm not quite sure, but I think we have to take first. If we come here, that's going to make our queen side collapse, I'm pretty sure. If the knight comes in, hitting our queen like this, then I expect we have to come back. We can't come in here. None of the squares seem to be possible to go to. Now this is looking a bit dire, but we'll try to find a way out. Let's come back with our queen first of all. They will take, most likely at least. Then when we take, we are still covering those squares here at least. Now we have to think about knight forks, etc. as well. I don't think we have enough time to do that, but we'll see. We can't quite push here. Yeah, let's take. We have 1 minute left. I would like being able to come up here, but the knight is disallowing it. But we might play up to b4 with our queen. This looks like a good square. Covering a lot of stuff and looking to coordinate with our other pieces. We get this. Okay, what happens if we come up like this? I could go for this fork, perhaps? Oh, we generally don't have time. This is hit. I'm realizing. Maybe this. Coming up here and defending the knight as well. Now everything is defended at least, but this is a fragile position. If we trade queens, we will have pressure like this. We could look at forking like this, for example, at some point. We do get the trade, and I think this might be our way of getting back into the game. Now, let's see. I really do not like our position. We'll come up with the bishop first, I think. Hitting this knight, maybe looking to come around here. This doesn't work because of this knight. We can't come here because of this pawn now. Maybe this maneuver, hitting this pawn, trying to play with a passed pawn. This knight can't really come forwards. If we come like this, is this pawn defendable? I'm not seeing a convincing defense. So let's come back here and try to hit them like this. This might be an idea at some point. Currently it's defended by this knight though. If this is played, I think we can ignore it and come up here. If they take, we get a passed pawn, and this is playable. Yeah, it's still not easy. This is definitely not easy. But I don't think we have a loss here, at least. Hopefully not. But still, we have to play quickly, so it's going to be easy to make mistakes. This knight comes in now. Let's take the pawn while we still can. This might be the idea. Trying to hit this twice and win back a pawn. If this knight comes up, or they take like this. But aren't we just up a pawn now? They might have to sacrifice the knight for our pawn, and then we might be winning even. This knight can't hit those pawns easily. They are 3 moves away. We cover this square. So if the knight comes up here, we just push, and once we get here, they have to sacrifice. Our opponent is looking to come here, but then we go here, 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 and they have to sacrifice again. So honestly, I think we might be winning. Which would be a welcome sight. Oh. Let's come up with our king then. Or maybe we can just come around with our knight. Now let's bring our king. That's going to be easier. I'm not quite sure as to which way is better. Let's try to walk like this. I was considering coming this way, but I was not convinced. Still, I'm not quite convinced. But if they do go here, now we might be threatening this kind of a maneuver. The second we get up here, we should win the game, I think. And if we are allowed to play this and this, it's also going to be a win. But then the king can't defend the c6 square. This might still be drawn in one way or another. I'm not quite accustomed to all endgames. After all, I haven't played for that long. Still, this looks quite okay to me, at least. Coming up like this and threatening coming in and hitting the knight here. If this is played, I think we go here and threaten taking the pawns while they go for ours. really hoping this works. This is likely to be played. They play this. And now what is our idea? I think here we could probably just play with... Oh, this might be a move. No, it's not. Let's come back with our knight, maybe? This is difficult. I think we have to go back with the knight. And then we can come in behind here. I think this is how we have to play. I'm not seeing a good alternative. Now we'll go for those pawns here, while the king and knight are locked against our king and pawn. Is this a move? I don't think so. I would expect we have this response, still threatening to promote. So now this knight is still stuck here, trying to defend this. If it moves away, we get our promotion. And we'll come down here. They can't take, then they have no way of breaking through. If we took here, I don't think we would have been as fortunate. This is a check, which will give us time to come in here. This is what we're probably looking for. If the king comes back like this, we could have this. This still hits this, so it's going to have to be defended. This comes in with a check before coming here, which I think looks quite good. This is a tangible threat. This is a threat. They have to come back. And now we can try to pick up this pawn while targeting this as well. If the knight moves like this, targeting us, we promote. Whenever the king moves, we trade like this. Our opponent resigns. Perfect. Thanks for the game. So I'm sorry guys that today the game got a bit cut because my computer crashed into the game. But we do get a lot of the game, we just lost some of the opening. Let's jump on ahead into the game review and have a look here. So we played with 87.6% today, and our opponent played with 81.8%. I see we had a miss, a mistake, and 4 inaccuracies, and our opponent had a blunder, a miss, and a mistake, and 7 inaccuracies. Let's have a look at this. We had the Slav defense here. At this point I mentioned, one of you guys at some point mentioned this was a good move. Earlier in an earlier game rather, we played this, which is a slight mistake as it locks in our bishop. In that continuation, or in that game, I was afraid we might lose this pawn if we don't defend it here, because I thought, let's say we go here, they take, then they already have pawns ready to defend this pawn on c4. We found out this is playable. One of you guys in the comments mentioned this as well. I can't remember your name, sorry, but thank you a lot still. This was played, and I didn't quite know how to respond. Apparently this was best. So I'll try to have to remember this. I know this is quite typical when a bishop comes in. I didn't know this was an idea in the Slav defense though, hitting the bishop by jumping into the middle of the board. We played like this, which I mentioned was a suboptimal move, as it blocks in our bishop, but I said I wanted to look at this line after the game to see the ideal response, which we now know is this instead. But what happens here if they drop back? Then we take. If they take, apparently we have a crashing position with this move. And if they try to defend here, well, that's quite difficult. Now we could take this pawn, which is a tangible threat at least, and we have some other moves as well, like e4. This is an interesting move because they can't take because of this move. There is a much better threat even coming in here apparently. Well, we didn't quite play like this, but I wanted to have a look at this line. So if we face the Slav defense in the future with this offbeat line here, we know we can jump in. We also had this, and I was looking at this, and in this position gx is better. Okay. Well, we played here. They traded like this. Apparently this was better. I was a bit unsure. We got some good moves. We castled, played up here, got our bishop up. This was a slight mistake. We didn't capitalize. In this position, dx is best. Then rook takes. And apparently we just play as if nothing happened or something. Now we can come in here, which is one of the best moves, but it's still deemed an inaccuracy. The best move is this. Putting pressure on the pawn, they can't take because of the pin towards the queen. So now we know this as well. We went here, I thought, well, if they come here, we take. If they come here, which was what I was looking at, then I thought this was good, or okay at least. But I failed to evaluate. They get another pawn here. We can't take, but we might have this idea, which we looked at earlier, but then e4 is good. We can't threaten this pawn, and our queen is a bit awkward. Okay. That's quite deep, but it should have been spotted. At this point I wanted to play quickly though, as we were quickly running out of time because of my computer crashing. We went over like this. The better move was f4, which I thought looked a bit scary, coming further up. The rook came up. We didn't punish it correctly here either. At this point I did mention we might have some rook move, which f to c1 was good. This I didn't quite see, but it makes sense in hindsight as we lock down their pawn mobility. Well, we took. It doesn't lose a lot of evaluation by judging by the engine at least, though it is deemed an inaccuracy. This was not best either. Once again, a5 was best. This was a good idea, preventing infiltrations and preventing this. I didn't see it, so we played a move that brought us back to equality. We went back. Our best move here was d6. Or d6. I think I did mention this move though, but I didn't quite see a concrete plan and I thought it might be a slight overextension. So we went back, but this did allow some counterplay. Our opponent didn't play the best move. Here I was afraid of this. So we went back. This was the second best move. Once again, there was a slightly better move. I didn't quite see our follow-up after this, but apparently that's because this is better. Yeah, that's not something I would have played. Why this is better, I could not tell you at all. Let's try to follow this line for a second to get an idea. Well, I could try to force the queens off. I don't expect that would have been played. This is probably the better or the more likely move to be played. But then they would have come in here if they took our pawn. We have a fork. And yeah, this is just good for us. I didn't see this. I thought this knight infiltration or the queen infiltration on b4 was a bigger threat, which it was not. We went back, traded rooks. This was pretty much forced. What was the best move here? We should have given up this side. And now what would we have done here? This was best. This is a fork. And I guess we just give up. No, this doesn't work. What's the idea here? Queen to d6. Defending the knight and preparing to take this, I guess. So I see we had quite a few slight inaccuracies here. We went back trying to defend our position. This was not best either. King to h2 was deemed better. Or queen to h2, which I don't quite understand. Apparently this was good as well. We went up trying to get our queen back. This was a mistake. The best move was captures here first. But then what if this? Oh, this is defended, of course. We shouldn't take, probably. No, that's horribly bad. The best move here would have been this. What if we get hit like this? The computer is unafraid. Well, we lost our advantage here. They traded queens on our terms, and here we won a pretty nice endgame. This was not the best approach. Moving the king up, bishop to c6. Coming in here while still defending. Or king to f2. This was a mistake, and from this point on we were playing for the win. The computer liked our plans here. We never really lost our advantage, it seems. This was all good. Now we just had the idea here of coming in like this, but I want to have a look here. Knight to c5 was good. We played it. In this position, this was best. This was good. Did we have a better move? g7 hitting this pawn. And they can't defend it with the king, I think, yeah? And if they push, we get a passed pawn. Well, this worked as well. We went around and our opponent resigned. Well, that's our game for today, guys. We got a weird game today because we started out into the game. But I'm hoping this does not happen again. Anyways, guys, thanks a lot for watching. This has been our game for today, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.